And on today's podcast, I want to try say this as romantically as possible for Kay. So a very warm welcome to the podcast, Kay Oliver. How are you today, Kay?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
No,
Happy to be here.
wonderful. So let's get this started. So this seems to be the favorite part of all the guests. Where are you right now on planet Earth?
On planet Earth, I am in Southern California, USA.
Okay, Southern California. So if I was to go there on holiday or want to move for any known reason or want to take a trip, sell Southern California to me. What's the best part?
The weather, it's beautiful most of the time. Southern California, the snow is only in the mountains, so you could be at the beach 1 hour and a couple hours later be in the snow if you so desire. You have Hollywood celebrities, you have amusement parks. The original Disneyland is here. Um, we have a lot of great eateries. We love our food and we like to bring in all different countries, and we have food fests and all that great jazz.
That's a pretty good review, I must say. That's a five-star review. So in terms of weather, what temperature? I mean, it looks kind of sunny there behind the blinds at the moment. Are we in the 70s or 80s, or are we not there just?
Yes, yeah, we're right now it's a little cooler. It's normal temperature, 70, but this weekend it was 80 and 90, so it was gorgeous.
Oh wow. Okay. So what's your favorite thing to do? What does Kay Oliver like to do most times in Southern California? What's your favorite thing?
Hiking on not too steep of ground. So going up into the mountains and just hiking and walking along the beach is also another love of mine.
Okay. You mentioned there's celebrities and so on. I mean,
I,
you just you bump into them most often, or do you kind of stay
well,
away
I
from that
work.
scene?
You can bump into them because Hollywood's right here.
Right.
But I worked in the entertainment field for 30 years, so uh, I've seen a lot of celebrities. That's
Okay.
not fair because I work in studios. Yeah,
Who's your fave? Can you say who your fave is?
there is no fave because
Ah,
it's
go
like
on, Kay.
saying
Go on, Kay. Tell me who's your fave?
there is no fave. I have a lot of good friends that I like a lot. There's a
Okay.
lot of great people in Hollywood, and there's some that make news all the time. So,
You're very
you know,
diplomatic.
oh, thank you.
That's
But
it.
it's true. It's true. I don't have a fave. I have a lot of friends that I just cherish.
Right. And I was going to say, who's your least fave? No, we won't go down that road.
No,
So,
we won't go there. I do have that, but we won't go there.
right, to kind of narrow it down for any listener, like, say it's an individual, mention a TV show or a movie, and we can kind of narrow it down. What was your favorite movie, Kay, or your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show right now is Dark Winds.
Okay.
Um, yeah, Zahn, who is the lead actor, is amazing. But I started watching the show because one of my favorite producer directors is Robert Redford.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
is that a wink wink moment? Is that your fave?
well, there's Kevin Costner too. I don't know, it's a country thing,
Oh,
but yeah.
The Bodyguard.
So,
We do like The Bodyguard. Yes, we do.
oh, well, I liked No Way Out, but when the 360, he does it all, right? They both,
Yes.
Robert Redford and Costner, direct, write, produce, act. And, there's something awesome about that. And both are kind of rebels in the industry. Robert Redford started Sundance. And right now, Costner is doing Horizon, not the way most people would do it.
Right.
So, it's nice to see rebels in the industry changing it.
Do you know the interesting thing is, and this is totally irrelevant, and I know we're going to talk more about your background now in a few moments. Pretty much Kevin Costner scene I've seen in a long time was a Superman scene where he puts his hands out and tells Clark pretty much to stay where he is when there's a tornado. So I'm assuming that either Robert Redford or Kevin Costner are one of your two faves, but you don't have to tell me. Um, Let the listeners know you mentioned there kind of 30 years in the industry. So let the listeners know a little bit more about your background.
Yes, I got a degree in radio, TV, film, and a master's in finance. And I started my career working at Universal Studios. Um, Worked there for about well over 10 years. And then I also worked for Steven Spielberg and Jeffrey Katzenberg. I love that. And I worked for Saban Brands, which does Power Rangers. And
Go, go,
we used
Power
to
Rangers. Yep.
yeah, yeah, they shoot in Ireland, I believe. So, yeah, that is, I've worked on many a film, um, and met many a celebrity, I guess you would call it. So, but it's a very interesting industry. It is still a male-dominated industry, but we're working on that.
So, when did this all pretty much start? This love, or was there a moment where you kind of went, "Oh, okay, I want to get into this industry"? And what age were you when this happened?
I was out of college, so college would be, right? So 18, 19, 20 years old, I was getting my college degrees. And I started in news, to be honest with you. I wanted to work in news. I'm glad I'm not in news. A celebrity told me a huge secret, and I was working in the news, and I thought I was going to get fired because I didn't relay this secret. I could have made my career, but it would have destroyed his life and his marriage, kind of
Right,
thing. Things were going on, and I decided I can't. I'm the type of person that keeps confidences. I don't, spill things. So I have a really, hard time trying to decide if, should I do that news story or not? And most likely, I chose not to. But that got me into, I'll just work behind the camera
right.
instead.
So, but when did that happen in terms of, with the news side of it? Was like a gut feeling that kind of said, this is just not for me? Because did you feel, is that the environment that you're in? Is it very kind of telltale type of vibe?
If you want to get ahead, you're going to tell secrets that people don't want out there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I really look at the human element, me, myself, and I, and which is how my writing is. And I just decided, and I'm thankful that I decided that because I would want to be in the news now. I was raised with the Edward R. Murrow way of doing news, which was unbiased sentences. You checked your resources. You do all the background legwork before you release the news. And now they're just releasing it, based on a TikTok. Someone posts a TikTok and right?
Yeah.
So I'd have a hard time with that if I was in the news right now. So yeah. So then I just decided storytelling was always a passion of mine since sixth grade on. So I decided to go the storytelling route.
So, what is for anybody that's in, say, Europe specifically? What is sixth grade? I mean, how young were you in sixth grade before you kind of kicked into the storytelling vibe?
You'd be around 11, you'd be in what we call elementary school, and you'd be around 11 years old.
And was your parents an influence in this, or
No.
family, or anybody else?
No, I entered a speech contest actually and won first place. So that told me, that they actually accused me originally of my parents writing my speech instead of me, which was not the case if they knew anything. So then I just wrote short stories for a while. But then finally in Hollywood, I was writing screenplays, which, my own original screenplays. I did some of my own original short films. And the problem was they were strong, not problem, but they're strong, independent females who could handle situations. And I was told that they're not marketable in motion pictures.
Right.
So I decided to start writing books. Yeah.
And how did that make you feel when you're kind of interacting with that type of, would you call it negativity, Kay, or is it just part of the way the industry is or was?
Well, it still is, to be honest with you. So, yes, it is negative because if you market women films the same way you market male films, then you're going to get that audience. Here's an example. For years, the NFL, the National Football League out here in in the country, never had women's apparel. If I wanted a jersey for a football team, I have to buy a men's jersey. For
Right.
years, it was that way. Now that, they figured out, oh, wait, women want their own apparel, which to all of us women go, duh.
Yeah.
And now they have fashion designers designing stuff for women. So they're missing the boat. Um, the same thing with women's sports. When you start advertising women's sports the way you advertise men's sports, you get the crowds, you get the, audience. And that's what they're missing. So, changing a whole culture is a little bit difficult. Yeah.
And when you started within the business, did you find that you weren't taken as serious as maybe your colleagues in the same position because of you were a woman?
Absolutely. Got paid $20,000 less than the guy sitting in my office next to me. And when I brought that up in a very professional manner, you still become the problem child. Like, how did you find out he's getting that kind of money? Well, that's not the issue. The issue is that he is. So, asking for equal pay, that is what women are pushing for now. If you're a lead actress in a movie with a, male actor, you should be getting paid the same amount. Um, and once we get paid that amount and we can start our production companies, then we can start making our movies and advertising our movies.
And did you feel, Kate, like you mentioned, like the problem child? Did you feel a kind of sense of, and I'm just asking just openly, did you ever feel a sense of regret that you were kind of challenging the establishment, so to speak? I mean, and what about your colleagues or peers? I mean, was there any backlash?
Oh, absolutely. I was eventually let go of the studio.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
yes, yes.
Right.
But yes, there was backlash. Yes, they wanted to get rid of me because I brought that up. But I'm hoping that my fight, my advocacy for the next woman that follows behind me is easier. That when they bring it up, they see, oh, this could be a problem, or we've heard this before. So, do I regret it? No, I do not regret it. I've taken on a couple of fights in my time, taken on an entire studio at one point, and had learned by a mentor how to do it the male way because women are a little different when approaching such topics. And, took them, made them pay also because, of what they had done. So it is still a very male-oriented industry. It definitely was when I started. There are things that have had happened that I won't even talk about because it's amazing. And it's funny is people who've known me for years, I would tell them little things. But when big things come out in the news, they go, really? Is that true? And I'll go, yeah, but I never told you because you probably wouldn't believe me.
Right.
So yeah, I can confirm a lot of the news stories you're hearing are accurate, if not understated.
Is it then, say, like an Irish idiot like myself, not saying that Irish people are idiots, but are we seeing the reality of an industry specifically, or is it all kind of fairy dust and pretend? Because I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm a big movie fan, big TV show fan. I like the majority of people, and I'd like to think, and I would hate to think that this stuff still goes on. That there's a negativity towards women within this industry or any industry. Is Are people kind of getting annoyed from the other side of it? So, say for example, they're trying to have a balance between men and women in the industry. Are some women getting a backlash because they're just being told you got the job because you're a woman?
Okay, so that's a compact question that you're
Yeah.
asking there. Has the industry really changed or the culture changed? Not really. Um, you still have to fight for your promotions. You still have to, there's times where a man will be promoted faster and he has less experience and less degrees. That's still out there. I think one of the reasons we haven't voted for a woman president is because of that backlash, that women shouldn't be in that type of a position, you know. All those old, old housewife, myths about women is still out there. Um, are people in the industry now still fighting for, equal opportunities? Absolutely. You still see movies in the Oscars. I don't know about this year, but last year, definitely. Yeah, this year. Best movies up, right? Like with Barbara Streisand when she did Yentl, the director wasn't nominated because it was Barbara Streisand. The director wasn't nominated, I believe, for Barbie, but that was up for everything else. So, you're like, wait a minute, something's wrong. So is it because she was a female? I don't know. I'm not in that secret room in the Oscars, where they pick who they want, but it seems odd.
Right.
So it's still out there, definitely here, where, I can only speak to my experience working in the US, but it is not equal at this time.
And what
Yeah,
about,
go ahead.
so go ahead, Kay. Sorry, yep. There's still a delay a little
Okay.
bit, but we're kind of like I feel like I'm on some sort of space station, and by the time I answer the question, it's kind of stopping and blocking. But no, sorry, go on. Continue your answer. What?
Yes, well, definitely with your background, you are on the space station.
Yes.
So, um, which I assume is, never mind. But I was going to say that, we're working at it, slowly but surely, we're chiseling away at it, and it'll take time. But I'm just hoping that the people who follow after have an easier time than I did,
Right.
my generation.
And what about, I think the last part of the question there, my long-winded question, as you mentioned, the, you know, for a, say, a director or an actor, or a writer, do some of them feel kind of hard done by, especially because maybe they've been picked for a job based on being a man or a woman or gender? I mean, is that another issue that we're probably dealing with now, where you have an individual, for example, and they've worked so hard and they really are the right person for this position or this job, and they've been picked because of a quota per se? Is that becoming a negative as well, where people are kind of doubting themselves, thinking, did I really get this job because I deserved it?
That is not as prevalent as working alongside somebody and getting paid differently.
Right.
Um, yeah, we really don't have any kind of quote unquote quota in the sense. We have the minority, consider a minority over someone who they claim is a majority. But for the most part now,
Right.
it's
Say this to me, Kate, for somebody on the outside, before we move on to your wonderful stuff that you actually do, um, just an insight. How does the academy actually work? So you mentioned there in terms of voting and stuff like that. Is it a group of like former actors or directors, and they kind of go around the room and they go, right, let's pick that movie, that movie, that movie. How does it work?
okay. So there's different academies. I'm assuming you are referring to the Oscar Academy. I am part of the Television Academy. I will tell you that you submit your clips, your movies, you have to apply for them. So sometimes when you don't see a celebrity or something, people get all upset, the viewing audience, like, why wasn't that person up for an Oscar? Well, maybe they didn't submit. You don't know. Um, so you have to submit and send in the clip and whatever, and then know that the Television Academy has a lot more voters. We have peer groups. We have people who've previously won. We have a large body of voters compared to the Oscars, which is a smaller hand of numbers of people who vote. So that's why you see these weird differences between things like that. Um, and then you do lobby. So let's not, you know, pretend what's happening behind the scenes. You lobby for your movie. You go in and you know who's voting, and you go in and take them to dinner, you do something, but you do lobby for your movie. So if you don't have a lot of money behind, the quote unquote marketing of the movie for an award, you're not going to do it. So it's not just the best picture wins. The best picture maybe one that doesn't win. And it could be for political reasons. It could be because someone spent a lot of money in lobbying. It's not as clear cut as we might wish it to be,
Right. And
right?
yeah, so you've been very, very politically correct there, you are, Kay.
Thank you.
Very politically correct. Well, say
I'm
no.
not known for that.
No, no, you're doing wonderful. You're doing wonderful. Especially if any listeners is listening to this. The start of this, we had a bit of a technical glitch, and it's gradually weeding its way out. And Kay is doing a wonderful job because I had to interject there a little bit to kind of reset, reboot the system to ensure that Kay could continue our conversation. So you're doing wonderful, Kay. In relation to, just to have an insight again, say actors, right? Um, do they get involved in this political mumbo jumbo, or is it a case of they just want the money, they want a job, and could you hear a lot of time where they see these scripts or screenplays and they go, I read the script and it's what I wanted, or are they being serious with this, or is it just a case of I need a bit of money. I gotta get this gig. Are they just promoting it as you mentioned, like in terms of canvassing, kind of to make it better than what it is? Be as blunt as possible.
I think no, the younger, the what I call no names, you don't really know who they are, would go for probably any script to get, rep on their resume. But when you hear like a Reese Witherspoon or someone say, I read the script and I loved it and I want to be part of it, or I've heard and I bid for it, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, he wasn't the original choice. No, they really want it. They
Right.
don't want it just to, yeah, it is something that they feel they can do or something that they want to take on. Maybe the script speaks to them or it touches them or they've experienced that. So
Right.
you have both. It depends on where you are on the ladder of life. Yeah.
No, it's wonderful talking to you, Kay, because I feel like Tom Cruise and A Few Good Men. I want answers. I want the truth. You're frozen again, Kay. Hold on a second.
It's technology.
It is. Here we go again. Okay, you're back with me. Don't worry, we can edit all this stuff. We can mix and match it later on. Don't worry. You've done all this before in Hollywood, so editing, editing,
Absolutely.
editing is nothing.
It started, yeah. Editing's a love. Yeah.
Editing's nothing. No, just what I meant to say is that I mean it's great chatting to you because I love when you do these podcasts that you're actually getting the inside knowledge, and it's it's kind of for anybody wanting to get into the industry. Would you, if you were going to look back at yourself 30 years ago and you went back in time and you spoke to Kay 30 years ago, would you say, Kay, yeah, let's do this? Or would you say, look, no, hang on a second now, find something else to do?
I would still say, yes, let's do this. Um, and be thankful that you have thick skin because a lot of things happen and you have to. Uh, I was fortunate to work with Lloyd Thaxton. He's passed away now,
Right.
but he was a high level producer in television. And he sat me down one day because I was a bit dispelled over the cat fights that were happening in our office. And I said, I don't know that I can work in Hollywood because if that's the way you need to be, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. And he lovingly said, you don't have to change at all. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Just know that there are some people that will go higher and faster than you because they'll do things that maybe you won't agree to doing, but they'll also fall faster than you.
Right.
So get that in mind. So I did, and that was wonderful advice.
So you wouldn't go back 30 years' time and tell yourself, don't do it. No. Okay, we've
No,
moved
I
off. We've
wouldn't.
moved on from that. So what about then your yet again for anybody listening to this that wants to get into the industry, what is your favorite thing about the industry? I'll ask you that first, and then my next question will be what's your least favorite thing about the industry? Now, I mean, without a filter, Kay, the least thing you don't like about this industry.
Well, people always ask me if I miss the glamour of Hollywood.
Right.
And I always say the only time you're glamorous is when you're walking your red carpet then your hairspray taped, glued, and you haven't eaten for 5 days. So
Right.
there's nothing, still nothing glamorous about it. So, but my favorite thing is putting the pieces together, telling the story. As it comes together, it's just amazing. If the writers are number one, because if you don't have a story, you have nothing to film. And then how you film it, the cinematography, the lighting, the pieces, you get all that, and you go into a booth, you edit it together, and then when you add the music, it's the whole mood of the film, the story. And just to watch it come together and be part of putting it together to me is just joyous. So that's what I absolutely love. And the glamour part I can do without.
Oh,
I've walked around, I walked red carpets, I've gone to award shows, and I'm good.
uh, in terms of the red carpet, because all we see is obviously from the camera view, we don't really see what's going on behind, and all we can hear is like, the paparazzi, K, 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 K. I mean, that must get so annoying. I mean, obviously these guys have a business, and I understand that they're trying to get a photograph or a scoop, but what is that like? What's that environment like? Is it exciting, or is it just, guys?
Oh no, it's if you're on the other end, I've been rushed by paparazzi before. Really made a mistake as to who I was. But
Who did they
we need
think
to
you
have
were? Who did they think?
they thought I was Robert Downey Jr.'s attorney when he was going through legal stuff.
Oh dear. Well, I hope
Uh,
you're not Robert Downey's his attorney right now.
well, he doesn't need one now.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think we need more strict laws because you can be literally on top of somebody that's trying to get into their car,
Right.
and the paparazzi. I mean, it's just they're invasive. If you're in a restaurant and they decide, there's a celebrity there, and they decide to take pictures of the celebrity, it's like the sun's blasting in your eyes. It's just very annoying. Yes, there's a pro and con to being famous. At some point, there's people who call the paparazzi and let them know where they're going to be so that, won't be forgotten. But for the most part, they're very intrusive. You
Right.
can't even be in your own backyard without maybe now, a device flying over you with a camera.
Right.
And, you're confined to wherever you can, hide out. And, that's not fair. And people say, well, they're a celebrity, they should know that's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I beg to differ. So, and if you do fight back, then you have an attitude. So, you get it coming in and going.
Are you concerned about that, Kay, as well, at times that, something can be misunderstood? Or I know earlier on at the start of the podcast, you relate in relation to the left and news side of it because you don't be telling tales. But do you ever have that fear even about yourself? Because you are, you're an award winner. I mean, you're an author. Do you ever feel that that is out there, that there's a possibility of somebody kind of telling a story on you?
Me, myself, I don't think I'm that popular. Could it
Yes, you
happen?
are,
Sure.
Kay. Yes, you are.
Okay, but more often I would worry about going to lunch with a celebrity.
Hmm.
And especially if that celebrity is, well, married or single, because someone could take a picture and say, who is she? What is he doing with her?
Yeah.
I always thought that I'd pass a tabloid when I was in the supermarket and see my picture and go, oh no, you know.
Yeah.
But thankfully that's never happened to my knowledge.
Not
Yeah,
yet,
so
Kay. On the way.
not yet.
Can I ask, you mentioned writers there earlier on. What do you think about AI? What is your
Uh,
the reason I
okay,
ask
so
this is because I'd love to know especially from your angle as well, because you mentioned screenplays and obviously you're an author. And do you think, um, the reason I'm getting these questions in as much as possible, just in case I forget them later on, but do you think there is a major difference between what Kay Oliver writes and what a chat GPT or a robot writes? I mean, explain the differences.
well, first of all, AI might be good for a nonfiction how to do something book,
Right.
right? This. It doesn't write emotions well. It doesn't write humanity well. So when I'm writing, um, I might have my character trip in the middle of a scene because that's what we do as humans. AI doesn't get that. It doesn't really understand the emotions, and it's very more clinical than it is humanity. And can you use it to get some ideas? Absolutely. But to use it for the kind of books I write, my fiction books, no. Might use it for ideas or give me an idea how to write a blog that, I have on my website about writing. Yes. But as for writing what's happening in a book, how's it's happening, what the characters are feeling, who the characters are, you as a writer know your characters and you put some of yourself into them. AI can't do that.
Right. The the women who have inspired you, who are they? If you can name them, I don't know if that's possible, or what is it about them if you can't name them? What is it about them that has inspired you over the years?
That they are highly intelligent. They don't let society norms tell them, no, you're not supposed to do that. They do it anyway. They don't listen to the rules out there. That's me. I've never listened to the rules out there. And that they seek out information and intelligence. They're not hiding their intelligence. They're not playing, bat my eyes. Oh, I'm such a, they don't do that kind of thing. They're strong women, and all of my female characters portray that.
Tell the listeners, how many books have you shown the world, Kay? And
So
and
far,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. So far, I have shown the world 11 books, and tomorrow my 12th one comes out.
Hey,
So
there's a little plug. There's a plug on the side. There we go. Little sneaky look there. Go on.
it comes out tomorrow. It is book 4 in a series. Um, my first book was called Disturbed Tombs. It's in that series. And I won 4 awards, so I knew I was onto something.
So where do you get your ideas from? Where does this, I mean, are you out and about, you go on nice holidays, you look across the ocean and go, oh, I'm going to write a book today. Talk me through or talk the listeners through the process. How does it all work? Because it seems, the average person like myself probably thinks, we just get a bit of paper out, get a typewriter out, or, for anybody that's in the 1980s there, not the new kids. And you just write a story and write it down. What is the whole process?
I am what they call a pantser. That means that I don't plot and outline my books.
Okay.
I have in my head, and I think part of it is because I worked in the motion picture industry, the beginning, the end, and kind of what I want in the middle, and I start writing. The first book, Disturbed Tombs, was a question that I had, because we constantly find tombs in, Sudan or Egypt, and we dig them all up. We find 20 tombs, we dig up 20 tombs. But our graveyards today are, sacred. You're not allowed to touch a graveyard. You're not supposed to, dig anybody up, even though we do it periodically when we move graveyards. But for the most part, they're sacred. Why is there that difference? Are we disturbing their peace? And that's what got me to start that book, to write my version of, what's happening. And it took off from there. Otherwise, it is a whodunit. What would you do if you found a letter in a wall of a house you inherit from 1909 of a confession of a serial killer nobody knew was a serial killer? Do you follow through on that? Do you help find those women who are missing? Which there you tackle the fact that often missing women are not really investigated as strongly as a missing man. So in this case, they weren't followed up on at all. But it was back, in 1909 when they didn't have all the forensics and stuff they have now as well. So they battled both of those. And that started my second series, the Shaw investigation series. Sisters in Cold Blood is the first book there, which won 2 awards. So it's something that I think about, that I want to challenge, that I want to go after. And then this particular book is
Come on,
about
Kay showed up to the screen again. Get it up there. Come on.
my author's copy, A Powerful Disturbance. and it is about two leaders that helped free South America, but they are rivals by the time they die, and both at one point were exhumed, and someone kept part of their bodies, which plays into Callie Worthy, the scientist who hunts these events down as to what's going on. So it's a little bit science, archaeology, and paranormal.
And how long does it take you to write each book?
I love writing. So it takes me, well, this book took me 3 months, but it takes somewhere between 3 to 6 months. I average about 2 books.
And would you be doing your own editing, or do you send it to a house that kind of review it and say, look, we need to sort this out, okay, or change this, or because you've written so many now, it's just normal. You know what to put in and what to put out.
Well, I always use an editor. So what I tell people in my writing tips, which I give, for new writers, you just write. Don't worry about what you're writing. Don't worry about errors. Just go through and get your thoughts down right. The novel is made in the edit stage. Nothing is permanent when you're writing. You can move chapters around. You can do whatever you want to do. So don't worry about that. Just get the story out, get it out of your blood. Start with 20 minutes a day writing, and don't worry on perfecting it. That's where most people flaw. They go in and they try to perfect it at the beginning, and you get stuck. You get frustrated. Just write it. Don't worry about it. Then I do my own first two edits. Then I send it to an editor who catches things that, sometimes you're so far into the story, you're not going to catch everything. So you need someone else to read it, someone you trust, someone who gets your writing, someone who likes the kind of novels you're writing. That's imperative. And then when they send that back with a review or say, hey, you said this here and you said that there, you might want to correct one of those. And that helps. And then I go through another edit and I have it read out loud to me by a natural reader. And you pick up things that way too, because you know what the words are supposed to say when you read them. So when you hear them, it's different. And then it gets ready to get formatted and put out.
How hard is it, Kay, to get a book deal?
Well, I don't have a book deal.
No,
I'm
but
an
I
independent.
mean in general, because you see so many
Sorry.
authors, they send their books away to these publishers, and there was a guest I had on there, I think about a year ago, and they mentioned to me about scripts, and they says that
Oh,
they might get a script, and then they might get a load of scripts, or they might get a load of audition tapes, and they might go, okay, let's just pick that one, that one, that one, and then the rest,
right.
unfortunately, need to be lucky another day. So in publishing, is it difficult to get a deal? Do you know?
Yes, yes, it is. You really have to do a lot of research. You really want to find literary agents that want your genre, and you have to mesh with them in a sense. And that's hard to find because there's a lot out there, and you can spend a lot of time pitching your books to a lot of them with a lot of turn downs. So there's a book called Chicken Soup, which is on the market. It had 144 turn downs before somebody picked it up.
Wow.
So if you want to spend the time doing that, you can. I just don't want to spend the time doing that. Because I want to be writing. I want to be writing. So, maybe someone will come along and notice, wow, she's getting all these awards and something. It's not the best way in the back door, but it might work. I don't know. But for me, it's the love of writing. So even if one person reads my book, but I've passed a goal this week, so I'm really happy
Well,
that,
whatever that
what I'm.
goal is, congratulations. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, what about then inspiration? So, as we mentioned before, in terms of getting women or even young ladies into either the industry or into writing, what would you say to inspire them? Or even young boys or young kids out there, but for the ladies, what would you say
Yeah.
to inspire them to get into writing?
To get into writing, well, if that is what you love doing, then follow that. Know that you have to network, know that you have to spend the time to do what you love. You're going to do what it takes, to get your books out there, to get people interested in them. You're sitting at home writing in your pajamas means that you might have to go to a bookstore and do a book signing. You might have to do a book tour. If you don't like to travel a lot, then, think about that. But I don't like to travel a lot, so that's
Right.
why I say that. But I've done my traveling. But yeah, so you need to do what it takes, learn from someone. When I started by writing small novellas when I decided to continue my fiction journey. And novellas are books that are 40,000 words roughly, as opposed to a 60,000 word novel. And I wrote 5 of them just to learn what it takes to get the book cover, what it takes to format, what it takes to get it up and going, to find a good editor. And then I put those 5 books together in my first novel. And then I found out, because I just thought that's the way I'm going to do it. Didn't do any research. Stephen King, other writers of that caliber write novellas to flesh out a story and then write the
Right.
write the novel. And I had no clue. I was just doing it the way that I felt was best for me. Because there's a lot of rules and regs and people telling you how you should do something, the way you should do it. You're not really a writer if you're not doing this, that, and the other thing. Bullpucky. Like I said, I don't follow the rules, and I like people who don't as well.
Good.
So, you know, there's no right or wrong. And sometimes people who don't know things do things differently that make that book stick out,
Right. Okay.
right? Or that story stick out. Dances with Wolves for Kevin Costner, that was different, and it stuck out. So following the rules means you're going to be like everybody else. Be
What
you.
what a movie.
Find your, yeah, yeah, it's a good movie.
What a movie. What about Kay failure? When you started these books, right? Did you ever have that kind of sleepless night or kind of the cold sweats of what if this doesn't work out? I mean, what is failure to you? Is it a good thing to keep you moving?
It's progress, absolutely. I'll say that my writing now is 10 times better than when I started. Um, but failure happens a lot and people become very successful. People have failed out of college and became great actors, A-list actors. People have failed at making cars and came back, declared bankruptcy a few times before they made it. So failure is a part of learning your craft, and it happens to everybody. I think all of my books but 2 have been up for awards, and those 2 I never put up for awards, so I don't know.
Right. That was the
But
wrong question I asked. That was all my fault. You're too successful. Too successful. That's a
yeah,
mark against me.
I haven't had any problems with writing books. But like I couldn't get my female screenplays into production.
Right.
So was that a failure or a lack of, the industry's knowledge? I don't know which, but I always heard that the screenplays were great and just women movies don't sell as much. So I took the leap and became a writer of strong women's stories, which are doing successful. So if those are doing successful, why do you say movies wouldn't? Hmm,
Well,
question.
you're on this podcast, Kay. You have reached the pinnacle. You've reached the pinnacle. The
Right.
summit.
Yeah.
The, the summit is here. What about the? Do you have any fave or favorite? Is it fave is for the young kids, or favorite that you've written that's like close to your heart more than any other one? I'm putting you on the spot here. I was going to say least favorite as well, but I'll just say favorite now because obviously we want some of the least favorites to still be for people to still buy them. So generally, for the favorite, what's your fave?
My favorite is probably Road to Elysium. It is inspired by true story. It's won 10 awards. Some people it's being shopped out for a movie. So, but that would probably be my favorite book. And of course, the one I just written that will be out tomorrow was really a fun one to write. And I'm 6 chapters into my next book. So that might be a current project that I'm in love with. So yeah, it's, whatever project you're working on at the time seems to always be a favorite, but a lot of people resonate with Road to Elysium. So
And can you tell little hints of what you're working on at the moment, or is that kind of like a little secret? Can you fill me
no,
in on it? Yeah, we won't tell anybody, I promise.
we'll tell nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening.
I don't have a title for it yet. I normally don't until I'm in the book and I might hit a line that goes, oh, that line sounds like it should be the book title. It is the fourth book in the Shaw series, and it has to do with working on a current active case, which is unusual for them because they are cold case investigators. And the case, there's 6 different deaths that happen in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. This series is based in Michigan, where I was originally born. And there is a code involved to a possible treasure that people are, fighting over. So that is the hint of the book.
Okay, we're looking forward to that when that gets released. I'll be the first one. You're going to have me on the podcast. You're going to be on this podcast again, Kay. We're going to talk about it. Little do you know,
Okay.
you're booked in already. And so, do you have any? I mean, what's the name for people that are fans of authors? I mean, you hear all these wonderful kind of terms for, there's roadies, there's, super. Also, do you have any bookies? Would we call them bookies? These ones that are kind of
Okay.
really mad about the author. I mean, do you have any kind of obsessed fans out there that get in touch and kind of say, "Why did you do this?" and "Why didn't you do that in the book?" or anything like that?
Yes, yeah, we have those. They're bookish. Um, yeah, there's a book community and a readers community, but I haven't had any issues with fans to really say the least at this point. Most of people who want to get in touch with you want to do your marketing for you or whatever.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because they never research you. They just send you this, hey, what are you going to do with this book? Are you going to market it or what? And you're like, well, if you look at my website for 5 minutes, you'd know that answer. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, yeah. But for the most part, I'm always astonished when someone comes up to me with one of my books and says, will you autograph it? And I'm like, oh, you bought my book?
Right.
So I'm still at that stage.
But
So
is that a
yeah.
bit unnerving? I mean, that I'll be honest with you, that would kind of freak me out a little bit. I'm very kind of, I'll be fair, just to hide behind as the voice rather than the face. So how do you deal with that?
Well, having been on the news camera and having that, you go in a restaurant and people are staring at you, I'm kind of used to it, or being with a celebrity and they're being asked to take a picture or an autograph, I'm with them.
Right.
Um, so sometimes they'll look at me like, is it okay? Or what, that's your business. I'm just not going to pick up their phone and take a picture. I don't work for you. So they better have someone to take that picture. It won't be me.
Right.
But it's, I myself kind of think to myself, well, I know my books have been sold and I know people read them, but I'm always astonished when someone has taken the time to bring a book and wants me to sign it. Because, I just assume that's all happening over there and I'm over here.
Right.
So it is. It's not spooky scary. It's kind of wow. And I'm always happy to sign. I myself personally don't ask for autographs from celebrities I know. I don't know what their signature is going to do for me, but
Right.
unless it's on a blank check, and I have been pulled into having to do pictures with a celebrity. I'll be sitting there talking to him, and then so the manager will go, "Oh, stand next to him, get a picture." Like, really? Okay, fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that happens. So I have been on both ends of that.
But how do you find, I mean, with individuals being sincere? This is totally off topic. This is kind of like just chatting to you now for the last 50 minutes and kind of trying to find a little bit more. I mean, it's a sincerity within in the industry. How do you find that if people are being real or fake, and how do you manage that? Are you always having your guard up? Because I'm not being smart. Even with this podcast right now, right? You and I, Kate, don't know each other from Adam, we'll say, right? And generally, we're having this conversation. We're having, I think it's a good chat. I think I'm really enjoying it, learning about yourself and your background. But do you always have to be kind of worried or concerned that you have to have your guard up and you can't be your true self in the public eye?
Yes, that is a problem. It's not just public eye, by the way,
Right.
because in the motion picture industry, everybody wants to hook on to somebody who's successful.
Hmm.
And I have done things for friends where they ask me the question, what's in it for you? Why are you doing this for me? And that is because everybody wants something. And it takes them a while to understand that I don't want something from you. I don't want to be in your movie. I don't want to sell you a script. I'm here to support you because you're going through bad times and everybody else has kind of left you. And it takes them a while to realize, oh, you're not asking me for anything. One of my best friends, who's a well-known celebrity, finally called me one day and said, wow, you have been giving me items and doing things for me and never asked for anything in return.
Hmm.
And it took him a couple of years to realize that. And it's kind of a rarity in our industry that somebody will help you without strings attached. And I know that, many times I've been asked, what's in it for you? And when I try to tell them, I don't want anything from you. I'm here just to support you while you're doing X, whatever it is. Um, and that's disheartening, because it's true, because I've been at the other end where people want, they want to be associated with you because you're doing well.
Yeah.
And, or, they want something from you or they want to be seen with you. And you can tell that, sometimes people surround themselves with yes people. I'm not a yes person. So if a celebrity asks me a question, how'd you like my last movie? I'll go, do you really want to know?
Yeah. I
Because
can.
I will honestly tell you. You have enough yes people around you to kiss your, backside. Um, and you really want to know, then I'll really tell you. But if you're the kind of person that needs your ego struck, then chances are you and I aren't best friends. Because I don't stroke other people's ego for their well-being.
Mm. I respect that. I
So,
do. Yeah. No, I respect that.
so you have some people that ask for it, who want it that way, and there's people who you can quickly figure out what they're up to.
Yeah, no, you're being real. It's interesting because even with this podcast here, I think there's only probably four people that know I do this. I because generally, as I said, I'm just a voice, and then when this podcast is, you can see me, Kay, but when this podcast is released, the guests are only going to see you. So generally, for me, hello, for me, that kind of keeps me quite comfortable because I get an opportunity to meet people like you, talk to people like you, and share your experience then, and hopefully then it helps others. So it's very important, and it's just kind of interesting listening to you there about that because I think I would be quite cynical of that side of life, and I don't think personally speaking I would like it. But anyway, that's for a different topic altogether. Um,
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. Sometimes I use a fake name. So
right.
when I am out with somebody or doing something, supporting somebody and sending stuff out, I use another name. And that person knows, that celebrity knows that I'm using that other name. So if someone walks up and says, so and so told me to tell you this, they automatically know I had nothing to do with it because they're not using my real name.
Oh, okay. It's just
So
awful that you have to do that. I just
it
think,
is.
yeah, it's not good. But look, we'll talk about something more positive now.
Okay.
You were featured in the Wall Street Journal, and explain to listeners who's who in America. What is that?
Who's Who in America is people who have made a name for themselves, like Warren Buffett is in it. Well-known people are in it, and you get nominated. You cannot nominate yourself. Someone else has to nominate you. Then you go through a vetting process. And if you meet, you've had a great career and you've, made waves in the world, that ask you if you want to join Who's Who, which was an astonishing call. So yeah, so yes, I'm in the Who's Who in America.
And how did you feel when that moment? I mean, you're a member of the Television Academy as well. I mean, for me, this is kind of like, rocket science type of thing. And obviously, you've worked so hard, over the years, and I get that. But how does this make you feel, as Kay? I mean, especially you mentioned there about, you're originally from Michigan. You didn't tell me this now, Kay. You kept that secret. You did about originally from
I
Michigan.
did.
You kept- I,
Oh,
I,
I'm from Motown, Detroit. Yeah. Talk about being skeptical. I went online to make sure it was the actual Who's Who
oh,
because so many, right? So many companies out there have similar names or similar this or that to make you think that, that's who's calling. And it was the Who's Who. So I was very proud of that. I was surprised and proud. So then when I got chose as fiction author of the year for 2025 by the International Organization of Top Professionals, I thought again, no, this, what? And you can't put your name in. Someone else has to nominate you. And so I was quite shocked to get that award. So it's always, you think nobody knows who you are and you're sitting at home writing a book and then all of a sudden someone calls you from a huge organization and says, hey, we've chosen you, and you're like, me? Wow, okay, wow. So to see those articles come out always is really fun. It makes you feel good that you're on the right track and that maybe I do know something those studio executives do not know and are failing to witness and use to make their uh, pictures grow. So yeah, it's confirmation that you're on the right track.
so as you mentioned there, the word studio executives, I'm jumping on that as we speak because I am taking my notes as we're having our conversation. So if Kay Oliver was head of all of this, you know, um, industry per se, we'll say, what would you do for gender equality?
I would definitely do equal pay. I would definitely start investing in movies women want to see. Um, we can have action-packed, strong females taking on criminals. Not as a one outliner, but as a standard movies. They're called hard-boiled in the writing world, where you have intelligent women doing action-packed thrillers in books. We need to make some of those into movies. We don't need just the Stepford Wives or a few women together getting a divorce. We need the real deal. And I would definitely start investing in those and marketing them just like I'd market any other movie, and make sure that, people are equal pay. So, yep, that's what I would do right off the bat.
Oh, well done, you. I mean, a couple of my favorite movies had women as the lead, and one of them I think was Gina Davis. She was in A Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah,
That's the one, isn't it? I think The Long
I
Kiss
think so.
Goodnight. The action packed where I think she was an undercover agent, and then I think something happened, and she had a family, and then all of a sudden I think Samuel L. Jackson was in it as well, and then she
I
clicked
love
back
him.
in, and just action after action. And then the other one I think was with Angelina Jolie, which was Salt, not Salt. What was it? It was another action film.
Yeah,
Where
She also did Laura Croft,
Tomb
which
Raider.
was
Yeah.
yeah, Tomb Raider.
So as you said correctly, I mean, a lot of these movies, I know myself, if the writing is good, so hopefully Kay, you can hop on one of the latest ones. And if the lead, irrelevant in my own opinion, if it's a man or a woman, but if it's a woman, as you said, there's some really, really good parts out there. Sorry, good actors out there that can do these movies. And as I said, those two films. I mentioned that they were really, really, really exciting. What what then does the future hold, Kay, in terms of what's next for yourself? I know you're on a project at the moment. What do you do in your spare time? Do you have spare time?
I do have spare time. My dad is 85 years old,
Oh
and I
wow.
moved. he'll be 86 very, I'm sorry, what did I say, 85?
85.
No, 95.
No way.
He's
95.
90, 95, 96. Yeah,
Wow.
so he's a veteran and I moved close to be near him at this stage in life to help. And so I do spend time with him and I do have a wonderful set of women in my life who we do a lot of things together, craft night, we solve mysteries, we do concerts, we all like country or Western music. And so we do a lot of that. So that is, I do a lot of, today, for the rest of the day, I will be making gift baskets of my books to give away to charities. So those kind of things I love doing. So, and everybody who knows me knows that there's a good chance that if something happens while we're out and about, it probably will show up in a story. So, yeah, right. So my characters are fashioned after some of my best friends. So I have, I know their likes or dislikes and everything, so I can really write a great character
Right.
using them. Yeah.
Well, Kay, I don't want your next book about me now because I get the feeling we're best friends now. I do get that feeling. Um,
Yeah, we're best friends.
we're besties. So I'm being nosy at your website right as we speaking. I'm not being rude to you. So it's K.A. Oliver or Oliver.com. And you have information, you have your different books here, Before the Next Kill, Shooter's Treasure, Road to Elysium, which you mentioned. I mean, they're so varied. I mean, Love, Circulating Risk, Disturbed Tombs. In relation to the website as well, you have book clubs, and you mentioned you have a blog. So what's the blog about, or the book clubs?
The book clubs is if somebody wants to, have me zoom in on a book club that they've read one of my books, I'm willing to do that. And then the other thing is the blog is about writing. If you're just starting to write or learning to write and you want tips for free, it's absolutely free. You can go to my blog and I'm always talking about, I do have a couple there on AI. But how to start writing, how to find your voice, how to create a character, those kind of things, how to stop writing block, those kind of topics.
It's been a joy. This is my kind of thing. I love chatting to people like yourself, Kay, getting an insight into the industry. And obviously, I know Kay did wink. You probably didn't see her, but probably the camera was probably stopped and the technology when I mentioned who was her favorite actor, and she did wink Robert Redford and Kevin Costner. So that's just between myself. Nobody else. She did mention Steven Spielberg. I know he's a director, but I'm just saying it's Kevin Costner, Robin Redford. So all this let me to say, thanks so much to Kay Oliver for chatting me on the Wellbeing Crew podcast. The podcast we released once it's been approved, and I'll put all the links. Actually, that's one thing I was going to say to us, Kay. Where else are you on the social media platforms? Are you on the LinkedIn?
Yes,
Are you on the Instagrams, the Facebooks?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky. I think that's it. Yeah,
Are you
I'm on it, and you can get them all on my website. I show the links on my website.
cool? I put them in as well. I mean, are you dancing on TikTok, Kay, or are you just showing little tips? That's
I, I no.
you're not,
Um,
not yet.
I post my blogs on TikTok. I also do book trailers because I have a movie background. So you can actually watch book trailers of my movies, of my books
There
as
you
a
go.
movie.
Another plug. Powerful Disturbance. Oh, where's the book on sale?
It's on sale on Amazon.com and then other online stores like Barnes and Noble and etc.
And any people wanting to buy the book, as Kay mentioned, throw a nice little review in and mention how wonderful she was chatting with me today on the podcast, as always. Thanks so much to Kay for chatting with me today on the Wellbeing Equivalent podcast. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Got your plug in.
That's
Awesome.
it.